So I'm reflecting a little bit on myself as a founder, because one of the things I've been doing and spending time on and thinking a lot about is what are the constraints to my business. So, for example, what are the constraints to my goals? And I have a couple goals, and I'm just working on those. And then I'm trying to figure out, what is my constraint as a founder, right? What is blocking me from, getting to the next level as a founder, as a leader, as a manager, recruiter, all the things, all the games that I have to play. And while it is true, you do not have to be the best at all things, right? So a founder does not have to be need to make sure you find the best sales guy, you find the best. I have to realize what is my weakest function as a founder. And I suspect that might be recruitment, because I don't think I find enough people. I'm good at finding developers, at least to some degree. That's the only function I have real experience hiring for, but I need to hire outside of that role as well. And beyond that, I also need to be thinking, I also think a lot about focus, but as long as everything kind of forwards my learning, I think it's okay to have seasons where your focus is a little bit more split, and then kind of come back. And anyway, I think it's been very helpful to try and focus on constraints. But right now, I think I need to identify my own constraints. I don't think I've been organized with work. That's something that's been annoying me. I don't think I've done work. I feel like things are piling on, not getting done when they should be. And that's been pretty frustrating. I feel like I should do better. And so my constraint is either my productivity or my inability to recruit, if I have more work than I should. And that's probably the next thing that I'm focused on. I wanted to do a better update, but I felt quite low energy. So the biggest constraints I'm concerned about are sometimes I think I don't work enough. I think it used to be communication, and that I've improved that a lot. I think where I fundamentally lack is probably in maybe productivity, or a lot of the time I think I don't get enough done. Maybe recruitment, but I also worry about beyond just the functions of the business. What are my biggest constraints as a person? And that, I don't know, that's a hard conversation to have, because there's not much. It's a very qualitative analysis. There's little data that I can meaningfully track. I just remembered something. In 5 days, I'm off to London, then Singapore, then Bali, then back to Singapore, then back to London. And I don't know. I think I'm a bit tired to make this reflection effectively as well. Maybe my constraint is sleep and personal routine hygiene. Do I need a better routine? I don't know. I don't think so, but I think getting more done on it. I think my constraint is probably just waking up and getting things done properly. And recruiting. Anyway, as if like it's very hard because I think my biggest constraint is an unknown unknown. That is the thing which is hardest to work on because there's no way of me seeing it. And I think the fastest way for me to get there is to grow the business. Because if my growth fails, that teaches me something I did not know. And then that accumulates data points for me as a founder. And that over time helps me learn. But this takes time. I think that's also something that I would share as a reflection to anybody who is considering this kind of path. It takes a lot of time for you to identify your constraints as a founder, because it is not one data point or one failure that points to that. It is several. You need to go through several cycles in order to see a common pattern, right? If you see that every single time you're failing because you take on too much work, then your problem is not, at some point it's not productivity. It's you will not get this amount done. You need to hire somebody else. And so the constraint was not productivity, it was delegation. I don't know, maybe that's a poor example, but and so the faster you iterate, the faster you work on something and have it fail, the more data points you can collect. And therefore, the faster you can move because your reflections can happen. Like, you can just cycle, like you collect more data points. That makes it easier to look and find a pattern. And right now, I think I've done a good job of finding a pattern of, I think, like constraint identification was my constraint. It's like a kind of meta constraint, which I'm now working on, I think. Anyway, today was a pretty long day. There was a lot of calls. I wasn't productive enough in the morning. I did a lot of work for the one client in particular. A lot of work for one client. I think that's okay, but my week was a lot of work for one client today. Yesterday I had the driving lesson early. The day before I had woken up. I was a bit messed up. Monday wasn't very productive, and yesterday I had a bunch of calls. So tomorrow I can hopefully get back on my routine a little better. So that's the goal. Anyway, maybe my biggest constraint is consistency in my routine as well. I'm not sure. I'm not 100%. Why do I have a meeting on the weekend? Anyway, I'll probably leave it at that and call it a night. Yeah, I have to organize some consulting. Anyway, not the most exciting update, but I think it's important to try and have these meta reflections. I don't even like, there's so much reflection that happens outside of these videos as well. Like in writing and Notion, I have a bunch. I still do voice memos like by myself. I think it's really important to constantly reflect. I think the videos can be a nice vehicle, but sometimes just setting aside to think about something deliberately. I also have what I call like a scratch pad, which is literally just a mental dump. And it's like when I'm feeling overwhelmed with thoughts, I just write in it. And I think that can also be helpful to get to productive reflections, even around what your constraint might be and things like that. Recording yourself, not necessarily like filming yourself, but any kind of recording of your thoughts, that can be writing, speaking, whatever. But forcing your thoughts into words, I think, is a very useful forcing function to make your thoughts clear and actionable. Otherwise, you tend to go in circles. At least that's been my experience. So